People are talking about JK and his chest tattoo, and many are wondering what it is. We also have HYBE being boycotted recently and what's going on with that, as well as people believing JK is saying F you to a lot of the shipping rumors. So hey dumplings, it's Dave Desai, let's get into it. Recently, JK and Jimin were seen back in Korea at the airport, and a lot of people were a little bit surprised because we didn't hear about anything that happened while they were away. Were they doing a personal activity or were they doing a work-related activity? And if they were doing a work-related activity, what exactly were they doing? And how come we didn't hear about anything? They kept their plans pretty low-key, and they were not trending online while they were in the other cities, and they didn't make any headlines there. Although I will say maybe just not yet, and likely now that they've left and it's public news that they left, maybe all this stuff will start to come out as people might feel okay about posting it, knowing that both JK and Jimin are not in the state or country anymore. However, I will say that this definitely was a work-related activity, and we know this because of the amount of press that showed up at the airport. The reporters are there to get a story, and they are usually tipped off by the agency on what time and when they're going to be there. They obviously wouldn't do this if this was a private activity. Notice how when they were in the other state or country, there was no press that came out at all about what they were doing. There was really no paparazzi or anything like that, and a lot of that was just due to the fact that obviously the label didn't tip those things off. So it's definitely very possible for them to just go somewhere and not be followed and not have a bunch of stories come out about them, and that tells me it's a work thing. A lot of people were talking about specifically when the boys came back to Korea at the airport and what happened there. Many people noticed that both Jimin and JK hopped into different cars when they left the airport, and they were likely going back to different apartments or houses. This caused a lot of controversy, as a lot of people who believe JK is dating V were mentioning this fact as it's clear that JK is not dating Jimin. As you can obviously see here, they're not living together. While then the community that does believe Jimin and JK are in a relationship together are fighting back to say that this doesn't mean anything. And even more people are now coming out to say it's quite obvious that JK is not dating either of these people, and for the shipping rumors to just stop altogether. I mean, this is absolutely crazy to me, as well as it's clear that JK doesn't live with anyone. So it's clear that neither of these rumors have any real merit to them because none of them have been proven or verified. Personally, I'm very glad to start to see a lot more of this conversation happening where people are kind of like, none of this is true, stop talking about it. And while I don't believe that the conversation should be stopped or that this is definitively untrue, I think that the conversation needs to at least stop briefly because there's a lot of hate that comes with this shipping culture. Jimin is known to be the one that receives a lot of hate, and how much of that hate do you believe is coming from people that wish JK and V were dating and not JK and Jimin dating? And I believe either ship can be super toxic. Many also believe this was JK's way of saying F you to the shipping community and trying to say that it does not exist anymore or should not exist anymore, as obviously they could have both just hopped into one car and then still be dropped off where they needed to be dropped off. But it seemed like they wanted to make a statement by going separate ways. At least that's what people think. I don't necessarily think that that's the case. If they're both just tired and they want to go back home and probably ask for 2 different cars, they can do that, right? So all of this is just speculation that people have made up with no definitive proof. There's also recently been a huge uptick in people trying to cancel the label, with people asking HYBE to be canceled, as well as Pledis, and they're just not happy with the labels right now. I would assume this is due to the fact that they believe there is severe mismanagement with the label's agreements with the artists. Many believe that the label is not properly pushing specific members of groups, as well as just believing that the label has done terrible things to the artists. Now, this is specifically involving the group 17, with a lot of death or protest wreaths outside of the label right now, with people specifically saying that the label needs to protect the group, as well as the label just not properly pushing the individual members' activities lately. Now, I won't get too much into that drama, as that is a pretty standard issue that seems to happen over and over again. But what I do think is interesting is that this happens with every group. Every single artist gets up in arms about these specific things that the label allegedly is doing to hurt the artist. So this tells me that the community just has really high standards about what they believe the label should be doing. And there's a huge miscommunication between all of this and just the general understanding of what the industry is. I think what bothers me is that people take the success of their favorite artist as if the success were their own. And when they compare their favorite artist's success to other groups or to other big celebrities, and they see that their celebrity doesn't quite measure up to these bigger celebrities, they feel like the label is not doing as much as they should. Can a label really push someone and bring them to the next level? Yes and no. A label can pour in a lot of money to buy out billboards, to buy out promotion, commercials, ads, collaborations with other artists, social media promotions, stuff like that. But they will only do that if they believe doing that has a point, if they believe doing that is going to make more sales, or if they believe that doing that is ultimately going to help in some capacity monetarily, because this is all done for the sake of money. The labels don't care about fame, they just care about making money. So if you're not famous and make a lot of money, they would rather you be that than famous with no money. Sometimes putting ads and all that stuff can seem pointless to a label because the label might be like, well, all of their shows and concerts are all sold out and all of their albums reached their peak and a certain amount of sales that they had anticipated already, and everyone's already paid off, the investors, the team, the label themselves, and the artists themselves, and so they see no reason to keep pushing this promotion any further. And so there's a lot of that going on behind the scenes, and a lot of that is mostly about money, while the community is looking at fame and looking at my favorite celebrity isn't making as much noise as I would like them to make. That is the common complaint I see all the time. Whereas if the artist wasn't making money for the label, and the label would not continue to sign them. So the label clearly thinks that they're doing a good job and that this is enough. And then of course, above all of this, what exactly would the label gain from not pushing their artist properly? If they don't do that, then they're not making any money. So in some capacity, you have to believe that the label is making enough money if they're not dropping the artists and they're allegedly stopping the promotion. Now, on the other hand, the difference with BTS and what they do is that there typically is no promotion that is paid for or bought for. So I think the community, while they do get upset, a lot of people kind of are okay with it because they don't want the label to buy ads and that sort of stuff. And that's fine because a lot of the conversation that exists or is created for the boys, like by the community, is all stuff that is done organically anyway. So they don't really need paid promotion. They have their built-in marketing team, which is their own community, who happens to either make content like what I'm making right now about BTS, or they make fan edits and stuff, which is cool too. The topic of JK and his chest tattoo is something that has been a huge topic of conversation since he's come back from the military. This happened during J-Hope's recent concert, where JK was seen on stage and people noticed that it appeared you could see some markings popping out of his clothes, and people were like, there is definitely a tattoo right on his chest or upper arm. There hasn't been really any photos or anything that's come out of what his chest tattoo looks like, and a lot of people have many guesses as to what it could be. Some people believe it's a romantic thing and that it's going to leak some hidden secrets or something like that, and that could be a reason why he's not showing it yet. And others are even going as far as to say that there are people who know what this tattoo looks like that maybe aren't the BTS members, but perhaps some of the soldiers in the military, and they just have that memory and we don't get to see it. Others are hoping that some of these soldiers might leak some of those pictures or something like that, but any opportunity that a soldier would have to see JK naked, like in the shower or changing in the bunker, those would be moments in which they wouldn't have their phone on them. So they definitely couldn't take a picture or leak it. And if they just made a post and said that this is what the tattoo looks like, that post probably wouldn't be believed. Well, maybe it would be believed if they had a selfie with JK, who knows. But I think that is always a fun thing when people have assumptions like this. And these assumptions have been ongoing since his very first tattoo that he's had. So I think it's so cool to see that nothing's changed and people are still freaking out over his tattoos, even though he has so many at this point. And typically, we don't really ever know what they mean anyway. So when we see them, we just have more questions and answers than answers, and so I figured people wouldn't have as many questions if JK were to get a new one now, but seems like they do, so that's pretty cool. Nothing's changed. Let me know what you think. Make sure to check out Patreon for more videos, link down below. Don't forget to leave a comment right here. Love you, bye.